Welcome to the Pulse with Peter B. I'm your host, Peter BIANCAMANO. Let's get you to the pulse on everything you need to know. And today's show is brought to you by the Pilsner House and Beer Garden. Please visit our friends at 1422 Grand Street. Have a beer, have a pretzel, have a wings, have a great time. See Josh stuffing his face. What better? Visit there, please. But today, I am super excited because although it is not a Pulse premiere, because she has been on the show exhausted after she was reelected to the city council, but first time in studio, and I'm so glad to have her on, and that is our second Ward Councilwoman, Tiffanie Fisher. Tiffanie, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. And of course, the studio is located in the second ward.
It is.
So, I mean, yeah, second ward's hopping. My favorite ward, not because I lived in it my whole life, but different story for a different time. Tiffanie, you are in the middle of your second term right now. What are your goals, both at the city level and at the hyperlocal level going forward?
Sure. The second ward, we've actually accomplished a ton in my first term. In this term, clearly Monarch was a big success. We've made a lot of street safety improvements across the ward, and those have been big issues for the ward. And I would say the issues really haven't changed. Pedestrian safety is still a big issue, and clearly the entire waterfront. And we still have Union Dry Dock is still not resolved, and so it's going in the right direction. At a level that is above my pay grade at this point. We just secured the Monarch site, so really excited that they're about to install a walkway in that area to give better access to pedestrians and bicyclists. It's been very congested, very narrow. But just the future of what the Monarch site I think is still critical to this area, and then also rebuild by design. It's hopefully going to start construction next year, and when that ultimately is done, not only most of the second ward's on the wrong side of it, but the improvements within the second ward. It's going to be an amazing 2-acre park just west of 1500 Garden. It is going to be along the Weehawken Cove. We're pulling the boats out of the Weehawken Cove this spring. So there still is big priorities, I think, for second ward residents is really kind of seeing the finalization of the improvements along the northern waterfront. So.
Fantastic. Just to follow up on something you mentioned here, because I'm very interested in this, the Union Dry Dock.
Yes.
What is the latest update on it? If you can, I know a lot of this is probably discussed in closed session.
You know what? Yeah. It's the mayor actually has kept a lot of this close to the vest because at this point, it involves state level authorities, Governor Murphy, New Jersey Transit, Mayor of Weehawken. But what we know is that we had a signed agreement last summer. Right. I think the goal and plan for New York Waterway is to build out their operations in the current site where they are in Weehawken. There was some funding that the city of Hoboken needed to provide, and I think they're trying to work out, the details of that. I know that some Weehawken residents became aware of it, and they're not very happy, and so that voice didn't exist previously. Yeah, it's a little bit of a frustrating voice. We can all be empathetic with those voices. We get it, other than the fact that it's been there a long time. So we're hoping the fact that because it's been there a long time, it's something that maybe they can just, be more used to than moving it into a new location. So it's tough. It's a tough, situation, but I think it's going in the right direction for Hoboken residents. Fingers crossed.
So Tiffanie, one of the greatest fallacies, we love tackling fallacies here on the Pulse with Peter B, is that you're this huge contrarian to Mayor Bala at the city council, that basically anything his administration puts forward, you have to speak out against it, when if people were paying attention, in reality, 90 to 95% of all the ordinances that the administration puts forward get passed unanimously, including your votes. What do you have to say to the audience first about those fallacies, but that 5 to 10% where you are speaking against the mayor's wishes or any type of proposals he has, why do you do so?
Yeah, so you're right that 95% of the time we end up having unanimous votes on almost everything. I 100% will support any good idea, any good policy coming from anyone. If it's someone that doesn't appear to be aligned with me politically, the mayor, et cetera, doesn't matter. If it's good for Hoboken, I will get behind it. Where I think there's a point of difference is when very specifically when I feel as though the administration's just not being transparent on an issue that's really important to the community. The example, with the cannabis that I think you have a question for, like what's happening right now. And that's really where I will kind of, stand up and say, I can't support this if we cannot involve community input, if we can't share it with the community. We shouldn't be doing things behind closed doors. We shouldn't be doing things just for political purposes, for, positive headlines, for election purposes. What we should constantly be doing is thinking about what is in the best interest of Hoboken. And you know what? If we do the right thing all the time, you get unanimous votes and you get people to support. And to me, that's where we sometimes differ.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned the cannabis.
Yes.
And there is a proposal that came out earlier this week for a shop where the old Hudson Tavern was on 14th and Hudson on the corner. You said that there hasn't been much transparency with the Bala administration regarding how they're going to move forward on this. What can you tell the residents of the Second Ward regarding that specific location?
Yeah. So just one quick second on the
Sure.
transparency around cannabis. From the very beginning, the administration raced forward very quickly to put cannabis ordinances in place 3 years ago because they wanted to be the first, in the state. And they did it without input from the community. We really pushed back and said, this is such an important issue for Hoboken. We have to have public meetings. The public has to be a part of this, right? And they chose not to. Where we are now is it's kind of rolled forward. We've had more public conversation along the way. We have a cannabis review board that doesn't, for example, our ordinance doesn't require any type of public notice. So all of the buildings around this site, they weren't given any notice. As a matter of fact, when I found out, just happenstance from a neighbor who saw it, I just wanted to get the information out there to people, and I had the people in the building, the people that live above the Hudson Tavern, tell me that they learned about it from my email, which isn't right. For something that potentially has a big impact on your quality of life, a big impact, on your property values. They shouldn't be hearing about it through a newsletter. They really should be hearing it. They should be part of the process. So that's kind of where we are with it tonight.
Yeah. Speaking of which, so a few weeks ago, about a month ago, we did have Council President Russo on the show, and a topic of conversation was the lawsuit that you currently have filed against the city of Hoboken regarding what at the end of the day was a policy issue. And I know that you had reached out to me, and of course I invited you on the show immediately. Do you want to respond to anything that the council president said that evening? Now's the time to do so.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
I think two things that he said that night. One, that I could have gone about it differently and just put an ordinance in. And two, my complaint was on a minor technicality. That's just neither one of those is true. My complaint was twofold. One had to do with a improper way to approve an ordinance and not allowing the public to participate, not allowing their voice to be heard. And two, just there's a law that requires that they just broke that law. And I raised it the night of the vote, the very first meeting of the year. I tried to raise it and ask the sponsors if they would cure this. They basically said no. And it really left me with no choice at that point. So I just wanted to clarify that I actually did everything I possibly could to get them to write the issue. And every step of the way, they either blocked me, they chose not to write the issue. And I just felt like, they should be admonished for breaking this law. It's really important that they give the public their voice, especially on issues that are controversial. So this gets back to that same lack of transparency issue. It's the same issue.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't Corporation Council at that meeting when the initial vote take place kind of warn against voting for this? Or I could be dead wrong about that.
No. So what I asked Corporation Counsel,
Right.
who often gives us an opinion in the middle of a meeting that the changes that have been made are too material and would require another public hearing. I asked him that night, and he just said, he punted. He just said, well, I need a little bit more time. He allowed the vote to happen, and I was beside myself, to say the least.
Although when a lawyer tells you need a little bit more time, you would think that you shouldn't probably move forward
Right.
with it. I mean, I know our lawyers here,
Yeah.
any lawyer that I have ever dealt with.
Exactly.
And in all fairness to Council President Russo, he was not the council president at the time
Nope.
of the initial votes. He did come in and he did try to rectify the situation. At least that's what he mentioned when he was on the program. But obviously, the lawsuit is still filed, and you're still moving forward with it.
It is. It's it's the Prover or whatever. They got caught stealing cookies from the cookie jar. They put them back, and they thought that that's all that needed to be done was to put them back. But it doesn't take away from the fact that they stole the cookies from the cookie jar. Right.
And just to close this out, because we do have to go to commercial break very soon here, your ultimate goal about filing this lawsuit?
The ultimate goal about filing this lawsuit was just to get them to be admonished for activity that shouldn't have happened, and to be admonished publicly so that they just don't do it again. The legal opinion basically said that if it was challenged in a court, they would probably lose. And they, Council Vice President Chambord, in an interview, separate interview, when asked if she wanted to reintroduce the ordinance to cure it, she said, "No, I'm fine with how it is." And that's just not right? You have a legal opinion telling you to fix it, and no one wants to bring it back to the public to have the public see it again, and they were just okay with that, and that's just not okay for the city of Hoboken.
Well, Second Ward Councilwoman Tiffanie Fisher, thank you so much for joining us.
Peter, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and it was an honor for me, because this is actually my councilwoman. I feel like we had almost everybody in here, and we finally had our representative here. So thanks again for coming on.
Thanks
I really
for having
appreciate
me.
it. Folks, we will be right back. Peter Biancamano, your hostess with the mostest of the Pulse with Peter B. Folks, don't forget to go on our Facebook and our Instagram pages by searching The Pulse with Peter B, and like and follow us on each of those platforms. We're constantly updating those pages with previews of each week's segments and cool stories. Also, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our email address at thepulsewithpeterb@gmail.com. Welcome back to The Pulse with Peter B. And again, we want to thank Second Ward Councilwoman Tiffanie Fisher for coming on and really, really enlightening us, because the gentleman to my right never enlightens anybody, except for that horrible sweater that he has on tonight. That is definitely bright in the lights. And that is our resident political analyst every week, and that is Josh Sotomayor Einstein. Josh, how are you today, sir?
I'm good. I really liked the previous segment with Councilwoman Fisher. I thought she was the 50% of that segment that was amazing compared to the 50% that was garbage.
Well, I will tell her that you only think 50% of her was amazing and not 100%. I think 100%
You're the garbage.
of you.
You're the garbage.
It was amazing, Councilman. Anyway, Josh and I, as you can see, have a lot of fun on this show, but
I was kidnapped. Help me. Help me.
Anyway, different story for a different time. But we do have a very important fundraiser coming up on Saturday, March the 26th. And I was wondering if you could tell the audience what we're doing.
So as many people out there in TV land and internet land know, there was a fire. We covered it. We talked with one of the business owners in that building. It was the Chambord place. 80 businesses, I believe, are in that building, and many of them have not been able to get up on their feet yet. Unfortunately, also, I believe 2 people died in that fire, and it was actually a 2-part fire. Because the flames went out, and then I think a day or a half a day later it started up again. And obviously, if somebody or if you're a business owner out there, that you put your heart and your soul into your business. So we want to do a benefit to help those businesses to raise money so that hopefully they can get back up on their feet. We know that Hoboken is a wonderful town, but it's a small space, so it's definitely hard for a whole bunch of businesses to find a space in town to relocate. So we just want to do whatever we can do to help them. We're going to have music. We're going to have food. It's going to be in the upstairs of the beer garden, which is called the Colo Club. Fantastic event venue. I've done many events there, and it's going to be a very good time.
And that is located at 1422 Grand Straits. And, one of the things that you and this business owner that you mentioned, which of course is Max Feinstein, who's no stranger to the show, he's been on the show twice now, we're discussing was basically how a lot of these businesses really are not getting many answers to what's going on after the fire. Our whole purpose, and correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, is to raise money, not so much that they can get answers, but to help them, as you mentioned, get on their feet.
Well, I mean, usually like 99.99% of the time, this guy to my left is usually wrong, but in this one rare case, he's actually correct.
Yeah, exactly. So, Josh, what are the ticket prices? Where can people purchase tickets? And you did say it's the Colo Club, which is 1422 Grand Street. What time is the event?
So the event starts at 7 p.m. We're going to have tickets available through Eventbrite. And the ticket price is going to be $50. So with that $50 ticket, you'll be able to eat a little bit of hors d'oeuvres, maybe have a drink ticket or two, enjoy some music, and just really go out for the community and have a good time supporting people who put their life work into building a business in our town, in our community, or part of the community, and who just need a little bit of help getting back on their feet and figuring things out. Because anytime a business goes under for reasons that they can't control whatsoever, like a fire, it's a big question of what's next, what's going to happen, and everything is up in the air. And that's an amazingly stressful time for entrepreneurs, for creatives, for artists. A lot of art businesses were in the Chambord place. And so, we want to keep our community strong. We want to help others in Hoboken. And so it's going to be fun, good tunes, good people. I'll throw back a couple of drinks with everybody there. And this guy won't. He's a lightweight. He can't handle his liquor. But it's going to be a very good time.
And there's nothing light about the gentleman to my right, as you can see. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, he's always at the beer garden anyway. So in order for us to get him upstairs, we might have to take the freight elevator. But different story for a different time. Anyway, Josh, what can a person, as you can see, we have a lot of fun on this show, but we have to stay serious here because it's a very important fundraiser.
Well, it's a problem. I can't curse you on air, and most of my good insults involve curses. So, just use your minds at what I'm going to say when tape
Fill
is
in the
rolling,
blanks,
guys.
folks.
Yeah.
Fill in the blanks. When a person walks into this fundraiser on March 26th, obviously we'll both be there, so you get to finally meet the cast of the
Well,
Pulse with
he
Peter
won't
B.
be if he keeps on making these jokes because he's going to be 6 feet under.
Hopefully our behind-the-scenes crew will be there as well, all the wonderful people that go into making the Pulse what it is. But what can people expect when they walk in, entertainment-wise?
Oh, well, it's first of all, when you go into the Colo Club at any time, but you should definitely come on the 26th. It's just a great atmosphere. It's truly, the beer garden itself is amazing, and it has that classic Czech beer garden feel to it or German beer garden feel to it. And then upstairs, which is connected, has this different atmosphere. Right. It has this relaxed, hip, but not pretentious, sort of calming, but enjoyable, like nightlife, but not over the top, just very, very chill and relaxed sort of ambiance that's accessible for, everybody, anybody that's, 18 years old to 70 years old. That's how accessible and calm and relaxing, and also with it the place is. It's very, very wonderful place, and it's a great environment. And we're gonna have live music, and it's gonna be a ton of fun. I mean, I can't wait to be so drunk that I like country music. Although I hope no country music is gonna play.
Well, we might have to make that a priority now.
I've just given away a weakness of mine. Oh no, what did I do?
And also, we couldn't do this event without our friends at the Pilsner House. I mean,
people.
They are fantastic people. They are basically donating the space, I would say. And obviously their food is, when it comes to traditional German and European fare, pretty much up there with any other restaurant.
Well, they've also expanded their menu, so it's now, let's say beer garden style food plus, right? Correct. So they have a lot of stuff that you wouldn't just find in a Czech or Bohemian or German beer garden. So people rave and rant about the menu, not the way that he rants about ridiculous things, but like in a real way. And I love their staff too, way more than this guy over here. So
well, anyway, on that note, Josh Sotomayor Einstein giving us a little bit of a different take today. We hope that you join us Saturday, March the 26th, 7 p.m. The Colo Club, located at 1422 Grand Street. Look out for an Eventbrite where you can purchase your tickets. We look forward to seeing you there, and you'll be back on next week doing what you normally do, hopefully.
Can't wait.
Exactly. Folks, we will be right back. Peter Biancamano back with you. Don't forget to watch us on cable access every Sunday and Monday at 9 a.m. Optimum Channel 18, Files Channel 46, and Comcast Channel 190. Also on Sunday mornings at 9:30 a.m., you can watch our show on our YouTube channel, and you can also binge watch all of our old shows. Who doesn't want to keep watching The Pulse with Peter B? We'll see you there. Welcome back to The Pulse with Peter B. And folks, as soon as he came in last week, and this is his third week in a row, and that is the gentleman to my right, Mr. Bobby Blackjack, our sports insider from Blackjack TV.
Hello, everybody.
There he is, of course, and I-995 Productions. But what I wanted to say was, as soon as you came in last week, those Seton Hall Pirates woke up. They have now won 2 in a row. I was actually at the game on Saturday night, having a great time.
How was it?
It was an electric atmosphere, but I have to tell you, Bobby, people were nervous because they were like, they should be crushing this DePaul team.
Yeah, that seems to be the consensus. Even the game I went to and covered against Butler, same thing. Like they're expecting more from a team. Hey, if they win, a W is a W, no matter what column it's in. As long as it's in the left column, the W column, then we're fine.
Exactly. So, but what I'm trying to say was, I guess you're the hot streak for our Pirates.
Hope so. We have a few big games coming up, and let's get hot before the Big East tournament.
That's it. I like that. Now, moving on to the other Jersey team, because we did promise the audience last week, even though we're not alums there, that we were going to cover the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. And, of course, Bobby's wearing red today, to show his Scarlet Knight pride, apparently.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I did cover Rutgers football a couple of years. I may go back this year. And, I do have a few friends who played on the football team. So
all right, well, very, very cool. And it's Steve Pikel's team, who, we spoke about Seton Hall being inconsistent last week. You and I were joking before the segment about Rutgers basketball, the good, the bad, the ugly. Explain to me why, they're the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to playing basketball.
Well, I mean, if you want to divide it into 3 parts, maybe not good, bad, ugly, maybe good, bad, okay. The ugly part is losing to Lafayette and UMass. If you're going to be a Big Ten force, you do not lose to Lafayette and UMass. Right. They played Lehigh. They beat them by a small amount. The good part of the Rutgers team, I think they're pretty well balanced. They're led by 4 guards of their top 5 scorers. In between, you have their center, Cliff Omayori, who I think Seton Hall wanted, but he ended up going to Rutgers instead. And I guess the good would be that they're 16-11. They are 10-7 in the Big Ten, 5th place right now in that division, and they still have hopes of going to the Big Dance.
They still have hopes. It's so funny because you said the good. They beat, 4 top 25 teams in a row or something like that?
They've beaten like 5 top 10, top 15 team programs, all the Big Ten, by the way. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken off the top of my head, 3 of them were like in the same week. Interesting. Which was crazy. And that's what kind of keeps them alive for the NCAA, because they have these big quality wins, but then the committee has to balance that against those losses, like I mentioned earlier. Yeah,
well, let's talk about, you mentioned the center, who Seton Hall was trying to get, but let's talk about their stars on the team, Ron Harper Jr. and Geo Baker. I mean, these are guys that can really carry the Rutgers team game after game after game, and they probably did so in those games that they beat ranked opponents, whatever it was, 4 in a row or 5. For Rutgers to succeed, these guys need to carry the team on their shoulder, correct?
Yes, I believe that first big win they had this season was that Ron Harper 3-point shot, right after, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Purdue, I believe, and they were just named number 1 or something, and then, Seton Hall had that big win, and then like 10 minutes later, they had a bigger win. And it was kind of like, again, the rival, not even on court, it's also, in on TV. It's just, we have a big win, and they got a bigger win. Yeah, exactly. So it just never ends with our 2 teams.
Yeah, it really does. It really, really does. But going back to Baker and Harper, these are the guys, correct?
Yeah, Harper is, as you know, is the son of former NBA player Ron Harper Sr., who won chips with, I believe, Detroit and Chicago. And he's well known in the North Jersey area. I believe both parents have their separate coaching schools and whatnot in North Jersey, so a lot of players do follow them, and that's why he's very popular in North Jersey because of the name and everything. Then you have Gio Baker, who was one of their first big recruits who came in. I believe he's on his 6th year or as a senior or something, with all this COVID.
He's got the Miles Kale syndrome, I feel like, right?
Something like that. So I think both guys are pro players, potentially, maybe not NBA right away, but you might see them in Europe making a good living.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. All right, let's get to a question because we love asking questions on our social media.
Sure.
Earlier this week, we asked our audience, will Rutgers make the NCAA tournament? And I have to tell you, it was a much bigger margin than it was when we asked if Seton Hall was going to make the margin. It was 80-20. 80% of the people who responded said that Rutgers was going to make, and we had over 5,000 people vote in the poll. Thank you so much, everybody.
That's awesome.
Exactly. 80% said that Rutgers was going to make it. 20% said that they weren't. The Seton Hall margin was about 60-40, from what I remember, and a lot less people voted in that one. For all you
it should be opposite. It's the other way around. To be honest, but I think, like I said, 16-11, 10-7 in the Big Ten, 5th place. They have a big game against Wisconsin coming up, who's a ranked team. If they can beat them, I think they punch their ticket.
Wow. Okay. No matter what they do in the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, because you know what? I mean, I've been following basketball for years. I know you have as well. And how many times have we seen like a 17-12 team make it?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And again, those quality wins are going to add up at the end and push them forward. But if they go 0-3 these next few games, that's going to push them down the the Big Ten ladder. And maybe it's not so sure as you think it would be.
Yeah. Speaking of the Big Ten, I mean, the Big Ten is one of the most difficult basketball conferences to play in. You have teams like Ohio State, Purdue, of course, who are just leading the charge year after year after year. To a lesser extent, Michigan. And we won't talk about Juwan Howard right now, unless you really want to.
I'll leave that for
another time. Exactly. Wisconsin, of course, another very, very good team, as you mentioned, another ranked opponents. Who do you think is the premier team in the Big Ten, and who do you think can be a sleeper moving on to the NCAA tournament?
I'll tell you, every year it seems Michigan State with Coach Tom Izzo,
love Izzo.
They're not always spectacular in the regular season, but yet they get hot in March.
Right.
How many times have we seen this team, the Spartans, be not say mediocre, but under the radar? And then all of a sudden make that big run in March to like a Big Ten championship and a big run in the Big Dance. So I would think Michigan State would be that sleeper team. The top teams, you know what? It's not like the Big East where it's always Villanova and this year Providence. Mm-hmm. I think the Big Ten up top is very, any given week could be a different team on top.
Any given week, yeah.
Including Rutgers, that one week when they beat everybody, when they were unconscious, I feel like, correct? I mean, so, and that's interesting you say that, because I really believe that Rutgers has shown that if they can make it to the dance, they can beat anybody. Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, they play a hell of a lot better at home. And unfortunately for us as Pirate graduates, I think Jersey Mike's Arena is a much tougher place to play than the Prue Center right now.
Oh, yeah.
So, they're very dangerous at home, but of course you don't play at home, so.
Yeah, well, I still call it the rack, even though...
Still old school, huh?
Exactly, very much so. Well, Bobby Blackjack, our Sports Insider every week, now that the conference tournaments are here, and of course the NCAA tournaments are here, we're going to be seeing a lot of you, and I hope that you come back and talk to us.
We'll be here, and then like I said, Big East tournament's coming up, Big Ten's tournament. We're about a week away from... Actually, we're a couple days away from March Madness. Best time of the year.
Best time of the year is right. All right, Bobby, we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it. Bobby Blackjack from I-95 Productions and Blackjack TV. Folks, join us next week for The Pulse on everything you need to know. I'm Peter BIANCAMANO. I want you to have a great week, everybody.